everyone, it's Laura, and I hope you're all doing well. So I've been finding that a lot of people seem to be interested in the field of dietetics, whether they're interested in becoming a dietitian, going to school to become a dietitian, or just interested in what dietitians do. So I thought I'd share a video on what a dietitian's relationship with their patient or with their clients like. And so if you're interested, then keep watching. So if you're interested in becoming a dietitian, your relationship with your patient or your client is based on so many factors. And as always, I can't speak for the entire profession of dietitians, so I'm just going to speak on what I know. So some of the factors that play a role in your relationship with your patient is obviously the setting. So are you meeting with your patient in the hospital? Are you meeting with your patient in an outpatient clinic? Are you in private practice, and so you're meeting your patient either at your office or in a public place? Are you meeting your patient in a grocery store and having a grocery store tour? Are you meeting your patient on Skype over the internet, so you're not actually face-to-face, it's all online? It's dependent on so many factors. So in addition to it being dependent on the setting, it's also dependent on the dietitian. So some dietitians want to be more involved with their patient's care, and that's awesome, while others prefer a more hands-off approach. So it depends on your drive and your motivation, because when it's all said and done, you can be as motivated and as hands-on as you like, as long as it's within the realm of our code of ethics. If you're a dietitian in the hospital setting, then a lot of your interaction is dependent on which unit you work on. So some floors or units have more frequent flyers, so people that are admitted more often, and then other floors, maybe your general medical floors, the turnover rate's a lot higher, and the patients don't necessarily get admitted on the same floor. So for instance, if you're someone who is a dietitian and you work on, say, the oncology floor, then more than likely you're going to have a longer relationship with your patients, because the patients that are admitted are more than likely always admitted on the oncology floor because they have cancer. And also it's a long-term disease, and so it's something that you'll constantly see your patients, and maybe they'll be in the hospital for a longer period of time. Versus a general medical floor, someone may be admitted for dehydration and they're only in the hospital for a couple of days, and you might not ever see them again. Other floors that have frequent, the same people that are admitted are cardiac units, gastrointestinal units typically have the same patients admitted, but then your general medical floors, patients aren't admitted as frequently, and they're typically not necessarily going to be admitted to the same general medical floor, if that makes sense. So if you work in the outpatient setting, a lot of it's dependent on how frequent you see your patients. So are you going to educate your patients once and then you don't have to see them again? Is it going to be an ongoing cycle where you see them once every 2 weeks, once a month, once every 3 months? It's dependent on what your protocol is. It's also dependent on the patient. So what's the patient interested in? Does the patient want to see you every month? Does the patient just want to see you once, get the information they need, and be on their way? And that education and that relationship can be, like I mentioned previously, it can be as hands-on or as hands-off as you would like. So are you a dietitian who's going to want to follow up with your patients, who's going to give them phone calls if they don't show up to their appointments, or if they don't show up, you don't do anything? So a lot of it's dependent on you as well as the patient, particularly in the outpatient setting. Also, if you're an outpatient dietitian, are you someone who's going to run nutrition groups? Are you going to run nutrition classes? And if that's the case, you might see your patients more frequently because you might have your class once a week or once every 2 weeks or whatever it may be. So we talked about hospital setting, outpatient setting. Next is private practice setting. So a lot of this is dependent on the services that you're willing to offer. So are you willing to offer grocery store tour? Are you willing to offer pantry clean out? So where you go to someone's home and clean out their pantry and then take them to the grocery store and help them go grocery shopping? Are you someone who's going to offer one-on-one cooking counseling? So are you willing to, in addition to cleaning out their pantry, in addition to going to the grocery store with them, actually go home with them and help them cook a meal? Are you someone who's willing to check up on people weekly via phone? Some dietitians are, some dietitians aren't. It's all about the relationship that you want to build. And when it's all said and done, just like any other profession, there are some dietitians who go above and beyond, and then there are some dietitians who just do their job and go home. And it really depends on the dietitian. It also depends on the patient. So does the patient want you to be more involved, or are they okay with you just standing at a distance? However, some factors in regards to your relationship with your patient that are independent of setting or of where you work are that you're going to assess the patient, you're going to diagnose the patient with any nutrition-related issues, you're going to have some type of intervention, whether it's education, goal setting, more of a hands-on approach, so like grocery store tours, pantry cleanouts and things like that. And then you're going to have a monitoring and evaluation. So how often are you going to follow up with the patient? So the intervention or the education that we provide is food and nutrition based. So we're not personal trainers and we're not psychiatrists. And so we don't really focus on so if someone, for instance, is an emotional eater, we don't as much focus on the emotional part as the eating part. So what are some behaviors that are food and nutrition based that you can work on that will improve your emotional eating? Or if you're a long distance runner, what are some food and nutrition goals or behaviors that you can do to improve your overall health? We're not necessarily focusing as much on the physical activity part as much as the food and nutrition part. And it's actually not within our scope of practice to provide specific exercise recommendations. The recommendations that we provide are super broad. And so unless you find a dietitian who is also a personal trainer, which is relatively common, kind of, then you're not going to, if you go see a dietitian, if you talk with a dietitian, then she's not going to provide you with a specific exercise regimen. However, she or he will provide you with a specific meal plan. That's something that's definitely in our scope of practice. But in regards to the exercise portion, our recommendations are extremely broad. In regards to the psychological part of eating, of food-related behaviors, then typically we work hand in hand with a psychiatrist or a psychologist. So typically if someone's coming to a psychiatrist or a psychologist for food-related issues, then if that psychiatrist is specializing in eating disorders and eating behaviors, then typically there's a dietitian on staff, or that psychiatrist has a dietitian that they typically refer their patients to. So I hope this helped y'all out for those of y'all who are interested in the field of nutrition and dietetics. Like I mentioned before, a lot of our profession is food and nutrition based. It's not as much psychology based or exercise based. However, it is common for dietitians to become personal trainers or vice versa, just because they really go hand in hand. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I'm here for y'all. And also don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and check out my website, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.